Hi, I'm Rashonda. I'm the creator of this YouTube channel as well as the artbyro.com website where you can find over 250 art and drawing tutorials. In today's lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to draw a piece of peppermint candy. It's really fun, it's easy, it's great for beginners. So let's go on over to the art studio and get started on that drawing. Today I'm going to be making a fun little peppermint candy. This is a pretty easy drawing. I would call it beginner friendly, but it's got some fun little things in it, and I think it makes a pretty cute artist trading card, which is what I'm working on today. And I'm using a toned card stack. So what I do is I take full sheets of paper and I cut them down into artist trading card size, and then I have a tin that is just full of blank cards. So when I want to do a drawing, I'm all ready to go. I just grab one out and I can get started pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and begin with our basic shapes. I think it's always best if you can start with your basic shapes. So we're going to draw a big circle in the middle, and then some triangles on the outside. That's going to be our wrapper ends. And they don't have to be perfect. These are just guidelines. And in the center of the candy, we're going to add some little shading just to give it a little bit more depth right there. So then the next thing we want to do is to start adding in some of the details. The circle is going to be just a circle. We're going to do some things in the inside, so if you want to clean your circle up a little bit, you can. Try not to drop your eraser like I did. Clean that up a little bit. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, you don't want it super wonky looking, but don't stress out too much about everything being perfect, because I feel like that just takes the fun away from it. So what we're going to do here for the wrapper is we're going to put some folds in it. So if you want, you could add a couple more little guidelines to it. So we want to start refining our drawing a little bit. So for the folds, and this is going to have like that little plastic wrapper on it, we're just going to add some angles and some curves. I'm going to keep my lines mostly straight with sharp edges, I guess you could say. And we're just adding in those little overlaps because the candy is sort of bunched up down here. So we want to draw some little indications of how the wrapper's all bunched up and folds together. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. The goal here isn't to make a illustration of a piece of candy, right? The goal here is to have some fun, make some artwork, and draw something that people can look at and know that it is a piece of candy. As long as you can look at it and you can tell it's a piece of candy, I say that's a win. So I always encourage people to just embrace the process, have fun. Most of the time, if you're drawing, it's because you're wanting to have some fun, relax. And if you start getting too worried about everything, then it makes it much less enjoyable and definitely harder to relax. And you can put some extra little folds in here if you want. That's up to you. And like I said, you can clean your circle up a little bit, however you want to do that. And then I'm going to make a little dot in the center here so I know where my candy little swirls are going from. And I'm going to curve it. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And we're just going to keep doing that all the way around, making kind of that pinwheel sort of design. And you want to have even lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about them being perfectly even. To me, that's way too technical and trying to be perfect. So I have this one over here is a little bit smaller, and I'm okay with it. I'm not going to stress out about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to erase a bunch of stuff and feel like my drawing's ruined because it's not exactly perfect. And I choose to be okay with them not being even. Now, if you want yours to be exactly even, then you'll have to figure out if you want to measure that or how perfect you think you want yours to be. So then the next step's going to be to outline. So I just have my outlining pen. And of course, the hardest part in all of this is that circle. And it's pretty difficult to outline a perfect circle, which is another reason why I'm not going to stress out too much about it being perfect, because even if I could draw it perfect with a pencil, which I'm not sure that that's possible, then chances are I'm going to mess it up with the pen, and then there's nothing I can do. So I learned a long time ago that for myself, trying to get out of that idea of everything being perfect has served me pretty well. And I'm not saying that you should just make sloppy work and be okay with it. Obviously, we want our drawings and our artwork to look nice. But I also feel you need to find a balance between trying to make things super perfect and technical and being able to finish your drawings and be happy and content with them. Nobody wants messy, sloppy work, of course. That wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing. But a lot of people do suffer with the idea of perfectionism, and it can really discourage you from finishing your drawings. And so I'm just going right over top of the lines I made, adding black. And you could do this in another color. You could do it, maybe try some red, gray. I typically do mine with a black outline. It's just what I like, what I'm kind of drawn to. But the reason that I like doing the artist trading cards is that they save some time. They're a little bit quicker, and it gives you a little bit more freedom to experiment and try some different things out. So I'm going to add some shading in here with a little bit smaller pens. I have this set. I think I paid like $11 for it. And I might add in a couple more little wrinkles in here, but I'm just going to put some hatching in here. You could do some hatching or cross hatching, whatever you prefer, just to add a little bit more contrast to it. And it's up to you. You can add it or leave it. But what I was saying about the artist trading cards is that I really like them because they don't take as long. So if I'm doing my drawing, and I typically use a black outline, but if I'm wondering what it would look like with a gray outline or a red outline, if I'm doing my drawings on artist trading cards, then I feel like I could do another one, because this one's not going to take hours to do because it's a little bit smaller. I could try one with red, I could try one with gray, I could experiment and try some other ideas that I might be able to come up with. I could try to maybe stylize it a little bit more and add maybe some different types of outline. Maybe I add a double outline. You can play around with how you do the background. It's a lot of different things that you could try doing. But if you're doing a full page drawing like in your sketchbook or something, then you're not gonna want to do all that because it would be too time consuming. So that's one of the things I really love about artist trading cards. And if you're not familiar with what an artist trading card is, check out the description box. There's a freebie in there for you, and it will show you how to cut your artist trading cards out of a piece of cardstock, so you can get 10 individual cards out of a piece of cardstock. And then what I do is I round off the corners with this little corner punch that I got at our local art store. We have Hobby Lobby here. Sorry about that, camera shaking. And I just round off the corners. So I like the artist trading cards a lot. I started doing them several years ago, and it's made a big difference in how I approach my artwork. So let's move on to the color. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to start adding red to some of these little pinwheel areas. I have a red marker. I'm just going to use one of these big markers and fill in every other section of the candy, this little pinwheel area. And you can use whatever type of markers you have access to. This just happens to be the red that I feel like looks the way I want it to look for this. So I'm going to alternate between red and white. And the white I'll do with a white colored pencil. I like how that looks over the toned paper. And then what I'll do for the wrapper is to use, I have this kind of blue-gray color. I should mention too, I am going to put some of this gray over top of the red, just around the edges. And that will add a little bit of shadow to it. And just make it a little bit more interesting. You could do a darker red if you wanted. I Actually, I'm going to do those white first because I want the paper to be white, and then I'll do the reflections in blue. But I think I'm going to layer down the white colored pencil first. So I just have just a regular Prismacolor. So I'll show you that. So I'm going to fill these in with white. Every other one will be white. And the ones that are opposite the red. And then I can use the gray marker over top of that. So I'm going to fill these in. And then all of the wrapper areas will be filled in with white. So I'm not using a ton of different supplies here. I got basically about 3 markers, and I might add some more in to do the background, depending on what I decide to do with the background. To be honest, I'm not real good at coming up with good ideas for how to do the background. That's not something I've really put much effort into. That's also one of the things I would like to focus on a little bit more. So to do that, that's just gonna take a little bit of thought, some practice. You're not gonna improve at an area if you don't work at it, so it's something I need to think about doing. So I'm going to go ahead and fill the rest of this in. I'll show you what my thoughts are with the wrapper here. So I'm just going to go over the white with some of this gray. And then I have this blue color that I really like. And I think it complements the gray nicely. I'm going to do something like that for the wrapper. And then also for the white areas, I'm going to add a little bit of gray. Now, I like to say that I'm just showing you one way of doing something in hopes to motivate you and inspire you to work on some of your own artwork. Part of my goal is for you to watch my videos and come up with some different ideas for how you would do it. I don't necessarily want you to copy my drawings exactly. I think it's good to use the tutorials as a reference to get you started, and then maybe give you some ideas to try some different things that you can make that would be more unique and original and something that would be yours. And that's, I'm not saying that I mind anyone copying my tutorials exactly. It's everybody's at a different skill level, but my ultimate goal is to encourage you to think about things. And if I'm doing something and you don't like it, maybe you don't like the blue, maybe you don't like that I added the gray there, then when you do yours, if you're following along, then you would leave those out and do something different. And I like that. I hope that you do come up with something different for yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, get the rest of this stuff done, try not to bump the camera anymore. And I'll be back with you when I get that finished. Okay, so I have everything colored in, and then the last thing that I like to do is to add some white reflections on the wrapper, because the whole piece of candy is wrapped up. So just add a few little streaks of white on here just to show that the wrapper is shiny. And then for the background, you can do whatever you want. You could fill the whole thing in. We could just add some little streaks of color down here, see what that looks like. Just sticking with the same colors. I'm keeping it pretty simple, not really adding a bunch of extra colors, and just keeping it pretty basic. I might try this other marker that is another kind of a gray. Sometimes what I'll do is put like a little halo effect on the outside, so you can play around with some different things that you can try just to add a little color to the background. And that's it for this drawing. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you feel inspired to do some of your own artwork, and I will see you in the next video. Happy creating! Well, that is it for today's tutorial. I hope you liked it, and I really hope you feel inspired to create some of your own artwork. If you did enjoy the video, please hit that like button, and you can subscribe if you want to get notified of future videos. But before you leave, check out that description box. There's a link in there to the Facebook group, as well as a freebie on how to do artist trading cards and some additional information. So check that out first, and then I will see you in the next video. Bye!